It's your boy Tommy D, the one and only El Nino in Spanish. I say the kid, the nonprofit sector connector. I have these cool little react things and I want to play around and like celebrate something because check it out. 200 episodes, gang. 200 of an idea, of a concept, of something I talked about for 2 years before I actually did it. This is the 200th episode of Philanthropy in Focus. And by now, if you've been paying attention, Focus is spelled with a PH, at least it is here in the attic. So, Philanthropy in Focus, the nonprofit sector connector, trying my best to bring people together to make the world a better place because I believe collaboration is really where it starts. That's where it happens, right? It's not a competitive sector. I don't believe in the nonprofit sector. I think it's a collaborative sector. It's a place for us all to get together, to work together, and to find ways where we can improve the world. So 200 episodes, this all started. So picture this. I remember I used to watch that show, The Golden Girls. So picture this. Long Island, 2021. January 8th was the date, first ever episode. Katie McGowan, Horse Ability. Katie and I were texting about an hour ago. Talking to her later this morning. I got to remind her, she was on the first ever episode of this show. The second ever episode of the show was Dr. Larry Grubler, who I will be interviewing this afternoon for a little program in the works called hashtag Ending the Stigma Together. Larry Grubler told me on that show, Tommy D, we all need support at different times. And who knew all these years later, Larry and I would be collaborating on that other program around mental health, ending the stigma. Critically important that we normalize a conversation around mental health, around serious mental illness, around love and compassion, because that's how we fix things. I'm fired up about it. I'm incredibly passionate about it. And without the relationships and connections I have, we would not be able to make the world a better place. I say, hashtag no big deal, just changing the world, right? Yeah, it is a big deal. It's a very big deal. So 200 episodes. Guess what? We're just getting warmed up, baby, because I said 5,000 is the number. So that leaves 4,800 to go, right? We got a lot of work to do. There are a lot of nonprofits changing our world each and every day. And today, I got to shout out my friend Anita Mancini, Zucker Hillside Hospital. Shout out to you. I love you, Anita. You hooked me up with 3 guests from Zucker. That's coming up for hashtag Ending the Stigma. Those are in the can. We're going to be putting those out pretty soon. And you hooked me up with today's guest here from plant-powered Metro New York, Liana Levine Reisner. What's going on? How are you?
Hey, I'm great, Tommy. It's so good to be with you.
So, look, you didn't even, I told you the other day, so you didn't know when we first started connecting that you were going to be on the 200th episode of Philanthropy in Focus. Now, I always fancied myself a future game show host, a bit of a showman. I don't know if I'm a comedian so much, although I talked to somebody the other night, and he's a comedian. He's a retired FDNY guy, and they have this whole nonprofit. He'll be on the show at some point, everybody. But we were laughing a little bit, and, I got to say this. You know what they would say? I just flew in from Chicago, and boy, are my arms tired, right? Like that old gag, wah wah. So I will tell you this: after 199 episodes, it's a lot of walking when you got to go to the attic. I got to go to the attic because this show comes from you directly to you all from my attic. That's right, 2 flights up from where I get my coffee, just below the roof in the attic. So that's where we do the show, and that's where the silliness and shenanigans takes place. Liana, I want to hear about you. I want to hear about the organization. When we had our little, we met on the phone maybe a month and a half ago, and then we met again this week to kind of get things in order. I told you I've gone plant-based before. I've gone raw. And when I say raw, gang, I'm not talking about sushi. Okay, I mean like fruits and veg and stuff like that. I believe what was there's knives, excuse me, Forks Over Knives is what the one movie. I'm not sure if I haven't gone back to look at it. But I don't remember if that's the movie that talked about how healthy athletes could be so like massive and strong and healthy and they don't eat meat, right?
That's
Like
the game changers. That's
game
the
changers. Oh, I like game changers. That's pretty good because I have a show called Long Island Change Makers, and I almost called it Long Island Game Changers. That probably just means I should make up a new show called Long Island Game Changers. All right, so let's get into that because that was a cool movie. So let's get into your journey. Why does this even happen? Why does this organization exist? Were you always somebody who was health conscious? Like, what's your story? Tell me, man.
Yeah, thanks.
You're
So,
welcome.
was I always health conscious? I don't know. I grew up as the daughter of a physician, and my mom scratch cooked meals almost every day, and so there was a health consciousness around us for sure. But what I found took me to a whole other level. of health consciousness. And it was inspired by my kids, but ultimately was my own health journey. And I started to get really interested in nutrition as a way of trying to address some emerging health issues that I was seeing in my 20s. I did a little like gluten-free challenge that cleared up my IBS.
Mhm.
I did some other things, but I was noticing as I was aging that things just weren't so on the ball.
Sure.
I went through a period of time where I had, 4 weeks in a row of some kind of virus. It might have been the same, it might have been multiple in a row. And I came out on the other end and I said, what is going on? Why can't my immune system operate
Yeah.
well? And ultimately, I went down some paths to try to find what might work nutritionally and got very confused because anybody who goes looking for nutritional information will know that there's thousands of ideas out there. And especially now with social media and with web, just the web the way it is, you can find anything to substantiate any behavior. And the truth, though, is that, it took me about 18 months of digging before I came on the field of plant-based nutrition. And I thought that was a little weird for somebody who was actively looking for nutrition information. Like, why would it take so long?
Yeah.
And when I found the field, I said, whoa, this is clarifying. This is refreshing. This is practically like simple in concept. And I'll explain in a minute why.
Yeah.
But what it actually was transformative because the evidence is there 100% for eating plant foods, whole plant foods, unprocessed plant foods, as the modality for us to reclaim our health as human beings and our ability to sort of prevent disease in the first place. But when I personally made the change, I had been living for more than 15 years with endometriosis. I had a di very difficult hormonal health condition that a lot of women face. And within just a few weeks, my hormones had changed to the extent that I felt the difference. And has continued in that way. And so just going down that path of understanding, like, why is it that when we eat plants, we allow healing to emerge? And what is it about our food system now that is so inflammatory and problematic? This is something we don't really grapple with in grade school. We don't grapple with it unless, we get really geeky about nutrition later in life. And the evidence, though, is out there. And my goal through creating and co-founding Plant Powered Metro New York was to make it easier for the average person to find this information and to know what to do with it and to really affect change on a personal level and ultimately through our communities.
I love all this. I'm just jotting notes because I want to go about easy access to info and affect change, right? Affect change.
That's right.
So, I tell you, I mean, Hippocrates, right? I'm not getting this wrong. Let our food be our medicine, let our medicine be thy food, right? So, um, you know, I wrote down health journey because I believe we're all on that journey. And as I'm hearing you say that, I had forgotten until I was listening to you talk there that when I went to Nassau Community College, shout out to Nassau Community College, part of the SUNY system, when I went and got my associate's degree there before I moved on to SUNY Old Westbury. Shout out to the SUNY system, gang. We'll talk about that on some other show, but just we talked about this a couple weeks ago because, in fact, things happen for a reason. I had some friends on from the Nest at Nassau Community College, which is a food pantry on the campus in Nassau. So you and I should probably talk about that offline. Again, Tommy, you're running a show. Stop playing Connector, do the show, right? But I was telling somebody I do
Love
that.
it.
Last night I was telling somebody, I was like, in the middle of my show, I gotta like break out and remember what I'm doing. It's I took a class when I was at Nassau around nutrition, and I had forgotten that. Now I was a liberal arts guy in at Nassau and then a finance major later on, but I wanted to learn more. And I wanted to learn about my health. And that was, an 18-year-old knucklehead kid whose, diet consisted of like Red Bull, Coca-Cola, Buffalo Wings, and, like Heineken, right? Like, so it was a time in my life when you'd be surprised that I was looking. But you talk so much about like or what I was hearing saying just like our body reacting to food and our body reacting to what so many people talk about gluten allergies, and you said you eliminated gluten at some point, and elimination diet, I think you said. Our body is super freaking smart. Like if I was, maybe like 300 miles up north, I'd say our body's wicked smart, man. Like but the thing is, it can do so much. And if we put the body and our mind, I believe, in a place where letting it do what it's supposed to do, right? Like whether it be some fasting, a lot of people are into the intermittent fasting and stuff like that. But I've watched some people who are not like wackos who will say, a day, 2 days, water fast, whatever. Let the body, and I've gone through, like I've been battling a cold like all week, right? On and off, right? And I'm just like, well, let me give my body a chance to battle the cold and not have to break down all this food and so there's so
Exactly.
much, right? It's an incredible, like the fact that I can like cut my finger and then all of a sudden, like the body heals. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, gang. That's like, yeah, I know it's just what we do, right? Yeah, but it's like like if you actually sit there and consider this and go, wow, like it just has all the stuff. Like it's got it all.
It does.
Right? Even with all the junk we put in it right now and the outside environment and stuff, the body still is like super smart, super efficient, gets things done. What do you know what I'm saying?
Totally. And I was just thinking back, like when we're kids and we're fascinated by the fact that if you hack an earthworm in half,
Yeah.
it'll grow, it'll grow back. And, and our body does that kind of thing too all the time. We just don't see it and it doesn't seem so dramatic because we're like longer than a thread. So,
Yes.
but, and I think it's that crazy thing that like we have the obviousness of a cut on our hand to watch it heal. Like that's in our faces. We understand that. But we don't understand that the same thing happens inside and that the things that we put in the body actually are creating this like chronic state of a wound
Yeah.
inside, wherever it is, wherever our body's sort of programmed to have a problem. And whether it's like an autoimmune disease or it's some organ issue like your heart or your liver, it's all interconnected. And that's really something that spoke to me most immediately at the very beginning of my learning, which was this idea that, first of all, the body works as a symphony. And I was very influenced by Dr. T. Colin Campbell, who's a cancer researcher and professor emeritus at Cornell University. He wrote about this extensively in an amazing book called The China Study, and his story was the one featured in Forks Over Knives,
Yeah.
that great documentary. And that idea of the body as a symphony really spoke to me because we can't like talk about any one nutrient. We can't talk about any particular aspect of the body without recognizing how it's connected to the other. And, the cosmos also are within us, according to the song just before we came
Yes.
on.
Isn't that cool?
Like,
Isn't that a cool song?
I
Yeah.
love that song. And it's so true. Everything beyond us is affected as well. So a lot more to say after the break.
Well, I mean, listen, here's the deal. At the end of the day, here, this will blow some people's minds. Guess what? We're all made out of stardust. That's for reals, man. I know I wasn't there, but I understand. I'll talk to that guy, Neil deGrasse Tyson. He probably wants to come on Philanthropy and Focus one day. I mean, he's probably got something to do with nonprofits. But Symphony, man, you're right. And it all interacting together. And, what keeps coming up for me is um, I'm just going to say this word, the microbiome, because I'm dealing with some stuff, right? And I'm talking to one of my docs, and I see, actually somebody we have in common, we talked about, but I'm talking to a bunch of docs who talk about the microbiome and the importance, and like, again, at a cellular level, like we gotta give the body what it needs. And I will tell you this, as much as my friends know, and if you're listening right now, there's a bunch of you out there who know. I like Entenmann's cake, man. I do, especially that one, that loaf cake. Like there's a loaf cake that has like chocolate chips in it. It's a yellow cake and it's got powder like on the top and it's really good, right? Not for you, but it tastes good, right? But the point is, it is not good for my body. However, sometimes they sell it for a buck 99 when it's full, like a full loaf cake sale, right? God, Entenmann should sponsor the show. But like, but I know it isn't good for me. So the body needs healthy foods, right? Because it's unbelievable that it operates when you feed it Entenmann's, right? So could you imagine if you elevate and get to the proper stuff that the body really needs? And again, like I said, let me just quick disclaimer. I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a doctor, but I'm a human being, so I know a little bit about stuff and the body and things like that and how my body reacts. One of my doctors the other day, he was asking me, he's like, how do you feel after you eat whatever it was, that? And I don't think it was a cake. I probably wouldn't have told him. But how do you feel after you eat? And I go, I don't know. I just, whatever, man. I had lunch the other day and I was very thoughtful because he had asked me that question. And I was like, kind of feeling fatigued right now, man. maybe what I ate is affecting me, right? And so it's thinking about that, listening to your body's going to tell you stuff too, and right, many of the ways our body reacts and acts out, if you will, is letting us know, dude, something is not right. Your behavior is not what I need to sustain this incredible machine that operates like a symphony, right?
That's right. There's so much to say about the microbiome.
Well, can we get into that later? Can we get into
Yeah,
that
let's
today?
do it.
Awesome. I love it. This is going to be super fun. I am Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector. This show is Philanthropy in Focus. 200 episodes, baby. And guess, like I say this all the time, we're just getting warmed up. Right back.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Announcement, everybody. Quick announcement for you all. 200 episodes, gang. I'm telling you that because I'm excited about it, but I'm telling you that because do the thing. Whatever the thing is, just go freaking do it, okay? Because I talked for 2 years about Philanthropy and Focus. It had a name, it had a logo, and it had 0 episodes because I wasn't doing the thing. Do the thing, please. Go out there. It's not going to work out exactly like you expected, which is probably a good thing, right? It's going to probably be better than you expected. Just friggin' do it. All right, we don't curse on this show, so I just said a bad word, and I'm sorry. Just friggin' do it, all right? That's it. I think there's a sneaker company that tells you to just do it. Why don't you try that? Do that. Just do it. I just shared the website. I got to tell you something about like healthy, whole fruits and vegetables, and they're beautiful. The colors are like beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, so vibrant, so alive. Why wouldn't we want to have vibrant, living foods in our body? I mean, what are we dealing with here? What are we talking about?
Well, it's so interesting too. When I was studying a little bit about nutrition and the idea of how we as a species, like the human species, is meant to eat plants, it's like, yeah, our eyes take in color because we need to find the healthy foods that are around us, the
Yeah.
green leafy vegetables and the mangoes and the strawberries and all of that. And, we eat a lot of brown in our society. And this is really going back to that issue with the microbiome. Like, we need the fiber that's rich in plant foods. We don't get fiber outside of the plant kingdom. We don't get it from meat. We don't get it from eggs or dairy. It's only in plants. And by plants, maybe I'll define my terms here. I'm talking not only about fruits and vegetables, I'm talking about whole grains. I'm talking about beans of all varieties, and of course, nuts and seeds. And so when we eat those foods, we are not just feeding ourselves, we're feeding our gut microbiota, the microorganisms that live in our intestines, especially in the colon. And those are mediators of disease. There's trillions of them, and they make up like more genetic material in our body than we ourselves have. And it's just an astounding fact of life that when we eat, we're feeding like trillions of other things and ourselves at the same time. And through their, mediation, we get health or we get disease. And that's the beauty of this.
So there's so much there. So, gang, newsflash, like there are critters, little microscopic critters in your belly, right? And they're hungry too. And if we give them the good stuff that helps feed the good ones, they'll stick around and they'll give us good benefits, right? And if we eat the crappy stuff and we feed the bad bacterias, and right, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but then not such great things happen. So, like, if we think in terms of taking care of them and then they'll take care of us, that's a different way of looking at this. Now, I'll tell you, like, I know certain, like, I think I like that Entenmann's cake, right? But I also think that other things in my body want to eat that Entenmann's cake too. And I'm like, yeah, so like my doc, sugar especially, like, is like, I think like yeasts and things like that, they like to eat sugar, right? So you're feeding into different things. Gang, I'm going to be very careful because I know, I'm not going to make any claims or anything like that, but sugar's really friggin' bad for you. Like sugar, like, raw sugar, like that white stuff that's on a table when you're having your coffee, that's no good, right?
Yeah, we talk about the SOS, which is
Okay.
salt, oil, and sugar. So like the three of them are just rampant in our food system. Anything you buy that's in a package on the shelves probably has ungodly amounts of salt in it.
Yeah.
Uh, Oil, of course, is like a staple in everything that people make, even when we're cooking at home. We might be more, let's say, prudent about our salt use at home, but we're not necessarily thinking about oils.
Yeah.
And then, yes, sugar. And what the nutrition science has shown is, of course, that these are addictive foods. These foods have properties that make our brain say, give me more, give me
Yeah.
more. And that's really where the challenge is for us as a species, which is we look around at our food and the food is designed to be something that, calls to us all the time. It's both the sort of science of, food scientists who are going out and trying to find craveability within food, but it's also how we're programmed as human beings to want to be eating calorie-dense foods because we used to live for thousands of years and beyond with this need to, store up for times
Right.
of famine.
Because
And
we didn't know.
don't
We
have
didn't know.
that.
Right? We didn't know when we were going to see food again. It was like, so we
Yeah.
gotta get a little, put a bunch in the belly because, right, this could be like, as they say, feast or famine, right? Sort of like that's what it was. Now it's like, most people can access food pretty easily, right? Certainly here in the US, so although certainly here in New York City, Long Island area, people have access. Yes, people are food insecure, and I'm very sensitive to that and want to do what I can to help in those areas. Um, what I'm just trying to say is you don't need to load up on all this junk because you can get some more in a little while is the point, right? You know what like when I hear my children or other people's children go, I'm starving. I go, dude, you don't even know what that is. Like, I don't know what that is. What are you talking about?
Yeah. And sometimes that feeling of being starving is actually like the craving too.
Yeah.
It's yeah. But so, in all of this, the question is, how do we first re-educate ourselves as adults on what a healthy diet is? And then how can we activate it in our lives? Because I happen to have a nice amount of time when I was raising my kids to go and do the research, to think about how to change, to set up my household so that it could be a place where I wanted to eat and feel nourished. And so many people just don't have that, or they live in environments where, people are anti-healthy food, and you just have to figure out how to cut through all of that. So in creating Plant Powered Metro New York, the idea was, well, how do we meet people where they are, regardless of their background, and move them along a path? Because what I was amazed at early on when we first started the organization, I was meeting people, just trying to do my networking thing, getting out there and seeing who is in this community already who knows about whole food, plant-based nutrition. And it's an incredible community. And that's what really inspired me the most, meeting some of my co-founders of the organization, one who had ulcerative colitis, who completely changed her health trajectory with food. And, it's interesting because these digestive disorders like colitis, Crohn's, other things that may sort of have inflammatory issues in the bowel, those are the kinds of conditions that many physicians say, be careful of your fiber intake because it's going to irritate your
Yeah.
intestines.
Yeah.
But in fact, you need the fiber because what was
Right.
missing all along was the fiber, which is the protective factor. So when she made her transition and found that her symptoms went away and that, the disease is effectively in remission, that was a light bulb for her. And then there are countless other people like her,
Yeah,
right?
I want to sneak in real quick because what I want to say is, gang, I'm not going to make an indictment right now, but I am going to say this. I have heard for 20 years, and there's a specific MD who has come out and said this, who I think I told you about when we were talking recently. Doctors get very little nutrition training. And I'm not making an indictment on all doctors. It's the curriculum. It's what it is. It's how it's set up. And you can probably lean into this a little bit, Liana, because just from your experience and the people and community you keep. But that comment there about the fiber intake, I hate to say it, but sometimes people just saying things that they are taught, and if you're not taught nutrition and things like that, like my doc, who I'm talking about right now, or talking about microbiome and stuff like that, he's an MD. He's not, working out of the trunk of his car, right? It's not me. He's not a juicer in the trunk of his car. Like this is like a legit. So I believe as a society, many doctors are getting exposed to the information now. However, historically, that was not a thing. There was I think it's like 2 hours of nutrition training or something like that in medical school. Isn't it? Can you speak to that?
It's really limited. Yeah. From what I know from the many wonderful medical advisors who are in my orbit, they don't get that training. If they do, it's usually very chemically based, right? It's about understanding when you have this nutrient, it does this thing in the body, which then triggers this process. And it's just hyper scientific. And when we zoom out and we look at what's actually happening, it is more of that symphonic effect. It's that like there's countless things that one input can do. And by the way, it's different from having, like if you take in vitamin C from a supplement, it's different from the vitamin C that comes from fruit or vegetables because your body absorbs it completely differently. So yeah, our doctors have, I think, been shortchanged in their education. And so I don't blame them. I don't blame them for what they do. However, we're at a place where we need to raise the consciousness of everyone, including the people who hold expertise in our communities. And I am most excited by the people who have done their own research and found this way. I mean, they're frankly inspired by the fact that they went into medicine hoping to heal people and recognized that they couldn't with the tools that they were given. And when we get back to basics and we go low tech on eating food and great lifestyle skills, that's what is really allowing health to emerge. So I want to give a personal shout out to the folks at the American College of Lifestyle Medicine who have created a really powerful and growing professional network of physicians and dietitians and every kind of healthcare professional imaginable, who are all on the wagon. They're all moving together and trying to help the entire medical field, to embrace lifestyle, to embrace plant-based nutrition as one of 6 pillars. And from their work, we as a community organization can come out with standing and say, look, there's evidence, there's the great science behind it, and there's also real people in our community here who can validate this from their expertise, but we also hold expertise. We community members who've gone through a change. I talk about my experience as one of health liberation, that like when you go through the process of reversing chronic disease, you just see the world differently, you feel the world differently, you feel your body differently, and we all have something powerful here. And so for me, Plant Powered Metro New York is about not just connecting people to the evidence, but connecting people to the real human elements that allow people to feel inspired and motivated to make change in their lives.
I love all that. Give me that college again, the American College
Lifestyle Medicine.
of Lifestyle Medicine. So let's give them, is that an online thing? Are they in New York at all? What's the?
They're national. I mean, imagine like, the American Pediatrics Association,
Sure.
APA, right? There's like these huge American Medical Association,
Yep.
huge medical associations, and they've been growing.
I found them online, gang. So it's lifestylemedicine.org, lifestylemedicine.org. at some point I'll probably come to you. It's going to sound like the Godfather, Liana. I may come to you one day and ask you for a favor. This day may never come, but it might, right? And I may come to you and ask you for a favor and say, hey, hook me up with somebody over there so we can get them on the show and continue this conversation. Since they are a .org gang, which means when I talk to my board of directors, which is basically me, I can say, hey, it's got a .org. Can we bring them on the show? And Tommy will probably say it's fine, and we'll move right on. But that's just this conversation. I have something I want to say, and we'll save it for a little later on. But it's kind of something I want to just put out there. When we talk about your programs and what it actually is, we talk about education and activation. That's what I'm hearing you say, and that's the messaging I hear. I'm like, Tommy, I'm like, I want to tell you, but I'm just going to hold back. I'm just going to hold back, and we'll talk about it in one of these next segments. So I want to go into, when we come back, we're going to go to break, we'll come back. What does this look like programmatically? Like, what does the organization do? What does it provide? I'll share the website. The website again, gang, if I didn't say it yet, it's plantpoweredmetrony.org, plantpoweredmetrony.org. I mean, I'm looking at it as a plant-powered potluck in Astoria. Shout out to Queens. Let's go Mets. Dinner social in the Lower East Side. There's some cool stuff going on. We're going to talk about it, and then I may challenge myself to something right now. So we're going to see what happens when we come back. This is Tommy D, episode number 200, Philanthropy and Focus, the nonprofit sector connector. Right back. Hey, everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I'm Linda Marsanico. The A Train to Sedona is a memoir about my journey to love and compassion. It's also the name of my new broadcast on Wednesdays at 12 noon. When we are spiritual, we embrace possibilities and ideas, which strengthen our mind, body, spirit, health, and wisdom. On the A Train to Sedona broadcast, I plan to interview guests who embrace these expansive practices. Join us on Wednesdays at 12 noon on Talk Radio New York City.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
We're back. And I want to say, there was somebody I was sort of referencing, not that I know this person, but I've been following what she's doing. Her name is Casey Means, MD. The book is Good Energy. She is in this world of realizing as an MD that there's so much that she did not know and so much that she wants to share. And her brother, Callie, is a lobbyist who... There's a cool interview. I might have texted you the interview, and it's like her and her brother. And this will get you, gang, if you haven't heard this one yet. So do you know who owns all the ultra processed food companies? It's the same gang of big tobacco. So just when they got us addicted to that other garbage, they have the same tactics and strategies. Wow, people are going to love this one. But they got the same tactics and strategies. So do your research on that, because ultra processed food is garbage, right? Cake and everything, even though your boy eats it and talks about it, it's garbage. It isn't good for you. It's got no redeeming qualities, right? Other than maybe it tastes good, but it does nothing good for your body. So I'm on a rant. Let me bring it back. Namaste in the attic. Okay, we're back. So, Liana, let's talk about the programs of this organization. We talk about education. We talked about activation, right? One, then the other, right? Let's get these people to know what it is. Cool. Now you have the knowledge. Now what are you going to do with it, right?
That's right. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe I'll start off just by saying, who are we here for? What are we doing this for? And the truth is, yeah, anybody, anywhere who has a body, who cares, can get engaged with what we do. And we try to make what we do accessible to people by having virtual options, so people all over the metro area and beyond can find us and find information. But we also work in communities in the metro area, and we have for the first 6 years, because we're just actually turning 6 this month, we've been doing a lot of work within New York City itself. And the approach has been to work with community organizations, with healthcare organizations. And we're finding that the most receptive places where we can be are in communities that are already experiencing poor health,
Yeah.
which is a no-brainer, of course. But, if I go and talk to somebody who already feels good in their body, or maybe they're younger, they're not really in this conversation yet because they haven't had an enlightenment moment, I would call it. And if you've already been diagnosed with a chronic disease or a pre-disease like pre-diabetes, pre-hypertension, osteopenia, which is the precursor to osteoporosis, you get into this mindset of, oh gosh, I'm on this train now, and where am I going? And I think
Can I just
yeah,
let me stop you one sec, because the thing is, here's the problem with our society, right? So everybody wants the instant grad, right? A little bit of instant gratification. So it's no big deal that I got what you just said, right? Because there's somebody who's got a pen and a paper and is going to write something down for me, and I'm going to start to take a pill. And then, a couple of years later, we'll add another pill or another pill or another pill. And, maybe I'm going to make a bit of an indictment because of my own experience. It's either we're either going to, give you a drug, or we're going to take a part of your body out. Like, that's a lot of times the answer, gang. And I'm sorry, that's not enough options. There's got to be other options. You know what I'm saying
I'm
about
with you. And that's why, there have been some great people in the field who've said, look, if you think that changing your diet is extreme, well, then what about having open heart surgery
Yeah.
or having a transplant or whatever we do, which is super risky. And yet we sort of say, look, this is where I am. This is what I need. But
Because it's a paradigm situation, right? So if you're in a paradigm and it says, yo, check out this commercial. Let me give you all these disclaimers at the end of the commercial, but check out this commercial. You need this thing because you have this problem, and go ask your doctor for it. Not even let the doc just, I'm out there right now. Leanna's not responsible for what happens from here, but Tommy's on a rant. But I am going to tell you the fact that this pill that you're offering me for this problem that maybe I had, maybe I didn't even know I had until the commercial. But then, that was cute, Tommy.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then you're going to give me 9 other symptoms later on that's called side effects because I took the thing. Whereas, or you're saying I could have reversed what I had already by maybe changing a lifestyle habit and or diet, whatever. There you go, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And if not a full reversal, then maybe your symptoms are low enough that you don't mind them, or you can manage them in a better way with lesser drugs, with lesser doses, and then you get those drugs and you get symptoms, and then sometimes there are drugs to deal with your symptoms. And
That's
and
a,
what
love that one. I
whole
love that
other
one.
thing, right?
I love that one. That's my
Yeah.
favorite. That's my favorite. And my daughter and I get a kick out of the one where they say, let's say the drug is called Rumpelstiltskin, right? And it says, yo, you need Rumpelstiltskin because you have this ailment, right? And it says at the end, it goes, don't take this if you're allergic to Rumpelstiltskin. And I go, what? What are you talking about? You just of course, but what are we doing?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the readiness factor is what we talk about at Planned Parenthood New York. Yes, we should all be ready for this, but unfortunately we're not. And so where are people most ready? People are most ready when they're aging, when they're getting older. And I just turned 40, but I feel that most of the people I'm working with in four are 50 plus, because that's when all this stuff starts to sink in a lot more. And actually the stats show that about 2/3 of older adults have 2 or more chronic diseases, and most of them are on medication. So when you talk about how do we change the paradigm, we have to actually help the folks who have the most need at this moment to find other strategies. And what my colleague often talks about is, there's this sense that we should all have the right to know that this is an option alongside pills, alongside surgery, alongside anything else in the traditional medical toolkit. This is so powerful that it will actually turn somebody's life around, even in their 70s. And that's why for me, I want to go out and we do a lot of the programming that we do ends up in places where older adults are congregating. We're working with healthcare organizations, whether they're big hospitals or clinics, and getting the word out to patients who are getting those diagnoses or coming in for their 40th appointment, and they're telling tired, and frankly, their time is being wasted by this system.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
productivity factor is huge. So
What factor is huge?
productivity, like we as a society are completely hampered by chronic disease.
Yeah,
And it's
and,
just us, it's our family members too. It's
well,
the
and it's the thing is too, and many of us are going to be caregivers. If you're not a caregiver, you're being cared for right now, gang. And I'm going to bring something up and that's related to this in a second. You know, the thing about it is, if your expectation is as I turn 50 and then 55 and 60 and 65, things are going to start to break down and then I can go get a pill for it or whatever. If that's your expectation, gang, like which for many people it is because that's how we're brainwashed, I'll use the word, right? Then that's what you're going to live, right? If your expectation is I can live vitally and I can thrive, not just survive, and I can do that by diet and exercise and putting in good stuff in my body and taking care of, as you said, the microbiota and like giving myself what I need, giving the body what it needs on a cellular level, well, then that's the reality you'll live in, right? However, the paradigm that many of us live in is this Western situation where they say, you're sick, you're not feeling, we got a pill for that. Don't worry about it, right? And that's not enough. So it is big on the education. Something I got to say, because I have to point this out. I didn't know I was going to bring it up today, but I am emceeing an event for the Alzheimer's Disease Resource Center. It's going to be at Stony Brook University. I think you should probably be out there with me that day. It is a caregivers event. It's the ADRC Education Conference. I emceed it last year, lavender suit and everything. Although this year it's all about music and how music, it says creative connections, the arts as a bridge to memory and well-being. I did threaten my friend Lauren Vlachos, who's been on the program, that I was going to dress up like Axl Rose because it has to do with music. And I thought that would be funny. So I'm not sure I'm going to do it yet because I just don't know if it's appropriate. But I did really have a good time in front of the room last year and they thought I was funny. So maybe they would dig that. That event is Thursday, March 20th, 2025 from 9 to 4, Stony Brook University. I'll get you guys the information, or you can go to adrcinc.org. I bring it up, Liana, while you're here because I think it might make sense for you to talk about this. I'm sure you're going to tell me that our brain health is also affected by the foods we eat. Can we talk about that?
Absolutely. And there's so much to say. And, I'll make my disclaimer. I'm not a physician. I'm not a dietitian. I know about this from immersing myself wholeheartedly in this field. But yes, I was really interested, first of all, in mental health issues. And I know you're working on ending the stigma. So much of our own mental health is also tied to the gut. Why? About 95% of the serotonin in our body is generated in the gut. And if you talk about like, how do we get happy? It starts with what we eat. There's just no question. And so in our fiber poor diets, we're just going to be not only wearing down the physical body, but also our mental and emotional health. So that's one piece of the equation. But if we talk about like Alzheimer's and cognitive health, we know pretty much definitively from the research that saturated fat and sugar consumption are two primary drivers of Alzheimer's disease. And so there are some amazing physicians, neurologists, and otherwise who are studying this and trying to see like what's the difference between societies that have high rates of Alzheimer's and those who don't. And it really goes down, once again, to a whole food plant-based diet as the most protective, practice, the most protective thing we can do as a species to reclaim our dignity as we age through our cognition. And I would say it's not too late also. There was some great research that came out last year from Dr. Dean Ornish, who had already pioneered with cardiovascular disease research and already pioneered in cancer research with prostate cancer in particular. And he came back with a study on Alzheimer's disease, early stage, and they saw results when you intervene with diet and lifestyle. So I want to say, like, shout this to the world because yes, my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and probably 75% of other people have a grandmother who has Alzheimer's, and it's about time that we protect our older loved ones by giving them the information that counts.
Yeah, and I think that goes to my point earlier that like folks are like expecting, well, that's just what happens. No. If you go down the road this way, yes, that will happen. That's just straight up. That's what it is, right? Do the thing, and that's what happens. Or make a left and go a different direction, or a right Not, it's not political, gang. Just get off that path and go on a different path. Forget left and right. See what happens here? I get very anxious.
That's okay, but it's all about the paradigm. And this one of the greatest metaphors that I heard early on when I found this paradigm was, the two fish swimming around, and one says to the other, "How's the water?"
Yeah.
And the other fish is like, "Well, what water?"
What's water?
If you don't see it,
Yes.
you won't know that it's different. We don't, all of the incredible research that's been done on blue zones and the centenarians who are concentrated in specific communities, we don't see that in our society here. So we can't know that aging is possible in a different way. But
That's so important to say that. And I remember when the China study first came out, we talked about, you mentioned that earlier, but we don't know because we just don't know. You don't know like what you're in it just because you're in it, right? So that's like the blue zones. What a great story. I don't know if we're gonna have time for that. You're gonna have to come back. We're gonna have to do a whole thing. We're gonna have to do a lot of cool stuff together, and it's like you can't see the forest through the trees kind of deal, that sort of thing. Like you just don't know. I love this conversation. So when we come back, I want you to tell me what's upcoming for the organization, right? The problem with me is once you get to know me, you're stuck with me for life. So I'm going to make connections and relationships and help you build out and stuff like that. And the people listening are going to do the same for you. And I'm sure people are going to plug in to some of the programs that are coming up. So we're going to go to a break. We come back from the break. We're going to get into what's upcoming for the organization. How can we help? What do you need? That sort of thing. I'm also going to share a quick flyer for the event I mentioned. And I want to get you connected to my friend Lauren Vlachos, who I was texting with earlier, because I think you would be a great asset to what's going on from an education. It's a caregiver's thing too. So it's really how to support the kid, right? Gang, self-care is not selfish. You must, yeah, it's cliche, the whole oxygen mask thing, but guess what? It's cliche because it's like actually a thing. Because if you're on a plane and you pass out, you're useless, right? But if you put the mask on, you can help other people. You must. And I'm talking to Tommy D at the same time, not just you all. I'm not preaching. I'm trying to understand. We need to take care of ourselves, whether it be the meditation, the go for the walk, the eat better, the healthy, somebody told me yesterday, or I was hanging out with a buddy of mine. He says, you know what, Tommy, I get my release when I play basketball. That's my meditation. I said, right on. Good for you, man. Good for you. Do you, Dan? Let's go. I'll show the Alzheimer's Disease Research Center flyer. You and I are going to talk when we come back, Leanna, about what's upcoming. How can we help? How's that?
Great.
We are right back.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Tommy in his attic. That's what you do. But don't actually show up at my house. Attic's not that big. I mean, it means what that really means is listen to the show, pay attention, plug in, do what we're doing. A couple things. So I show the information for the Alzheimer's Disease Research Center education. I am the MC. This just in from Mike the Millennial. Tommy, what is an Axl Rose? Gang, I can't help you with that one. If you Axl Rose was the lead singer for Guns N' Roses, I don't know. There's no Mike the Millennial. I just thought that'd be a funny joke. But Axl, forget it. Axl Rose, AXLROSE. Google it. I can't do that during the show, guys. You gotta speed up. So, Leanna, what's upcoming for the org? I know that these programs are going on a regular basis, so let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I should dig in a little more just on what are we doing actually? Like, what does it
Yeah,
look like?
sure.
And here's what it looks like. We sort of fan out and we do all sorts of programming to introduce people to plant-based nutrition. So we'll do presentations, we'll do panels, we'll do film screenings where we have a discussion about like what is coming out of these amazing documentaries. We take people on market tours, we go food shopping, we learn how to read labels and be more conscious consumers. And we go deeper also. We do cooking classes. We have a series of classes using a curriculum called Food for Life, which has been a really great tool for us to go out and teach. Again, also at older adult centers, at clinics. We're working with Emblem Health at one of their locations in the Bronx. And we have one of our core programs is the plant-powered jumpstart, which we also offer in Spanish as Reto Salud a base de plantas. And
Wow, that was really good Spanish.
thanks. I don't speak Spanish, but I try to get my accent right because I honor that.
Yeah.
But I am a co-creator of the Jumpstart program, which we began even before we incorporated the organization. We initially presented these programs in person in community centers and also in clinics. And then with the pandemic, pivoted to running them online. So now they're accessible to anyone, pretty much anywhere. And it's a month-long immersion into whole food plant-based nutrition and living. The goal is to help people make a 3-week investment in their health. And we essentially, not just teach you about nutrition, but also how to cook, how to shop. Everybody gets a peer mentor to support their change process. And this is the most transformative thing that we do. This is about taking anybody from any dietary experience and moving them into the plant-based lifestyle.
Mm.
And what emerges on the other end is actual health because not only are plants effective in healing, they're effective very quickly. So the disclaimer for anybody who's listening is if you want to adopt a healthy plant-based diet, just be ready, especially if you're on hypertensive or diabetes medications, also maybe even, cholesterol medications. Your labs can change within days, yes, and within weeks too. Everybody's different. So like some people lose weight really fast, some people blood pressure goes down really fast, some people it takes a longer time, but it all happens. It's just a tremendous I think awakening moment for so many people who know that they want to make change and need that support to make it happen. So we do this in English, we do this in Spanish. Our Spanish program is actually enrolling now for April. And we have this incredible partnership with New York City Health and Hospitals, which is, for most of you who are listening from the New York area, this is our major public healthcare system, the largest in the country, who has also committed to lifestyle medicine within their hospitals, is gradually building and these fantastic programs where you can meet with a physician to learn about how to make change with not just diet, but also sleep and stress management and exercise. And then we are helping their system to get their employees healthy.
That's
So
awesome.
every year we have 400 or 500 employees who go through one of our 2 big Jumpstart programs. And we run this with the incredible leadership of Dr. Michelle McMacken at H&H. And it's in parallel to what we do for the public. This is sort of like a private experience for the employees. And to me, like this is how change happens. You make change by seeding empowerment in all places, right? We have people who are, I'll just say this, everybody is an influencer. It doesn't matter whether you have a channel, a social media channel.
Yep.
We all have somebody who looks up to us somehow. And when we go through the transformative process, people notice, people ask questions, and they may not be ready yet themselves, but we plant a seed. And so when we have healthcare professionals and community members and community leaders all on this train together, that's where we build a movement. So from my vantage point, like I am offering up all these programs, these little experiences in service to a much wider wave of change that I want to see happen in the community. And the only way we can get there is with the partnership of hundreds of organizations, leaders, and the average people who are really, on the ground and can open doors. So we operate as a network, which means we have people who join us as volunteers, as educators, as subject matter experts in healthcare or in the culinary arts. And we have right now somewhere between 150 to 200 people who are part of this network, who are all sort of, deploying themselves or being deployed by the organization to teach and to raise awareness. And so ultimately, what's coming up for us, Tommy, in the next little while, we're going to be continuing sort of the day-to-day, but also expanding how we work with healthcare organizations and really trying to get, because the beauty of the New York area is that everything is at scale. So, we are really trying to scale how we work using organization, like with a partnership of organizations that touch tens of thousands of people. And so we're on that train already. Last year, 2024, we worked with more than 70 organizations. And it's just like, how do we scale this work as fast as we can? That's my nonprofit, it's not a problem. That's my opportunity. That is
the area of opportunity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. I love that. So here's the thing. I want to plug in. I want to do one of these jump starts. You talk a little bit about being an influencer and stuff like that. There's some people that are paying attention to what I'm doing. Certainly not my 4 children, but other people are. I'm just kidding. But they are paying attention, my children. So if I start eating better than eating an Entenmann's cake and I start eating that is the influence. That's a lot of this stuff does start at home, gang. So let's talk about it. So I want to plug in to something. I want to plug into the community. I have friends out in Astoria. And people rave about the restaurants in Astoria. Why don't we talk about the healthy stuff in Astoria too, right? Yeah. We're running out of time, but go ahead. What are you going to say about that real quick?
I was just going to say, we're working actually with restaurants to try to help them put healthy plant-based options on their menu. So if anybody eats anywhere that they love and you're like, why can't they make food for me? Contact us and we'll help you do the outreach, because we want this to be a systemic approach. It has to be. There's no way we can do it one piece at a time.
You and I have a lot we're going to do together. It's going to be a lot of fun. I say hashtag the ripple effect as I'm listening to you. And people make change by planting seeds and all this stuff. And none of that was lost. I heard all that. We're going to go back and watch that and clip things together, because there's a lot of important things to bring out to the public. I'm so fired up that you're here. I gotta send love again to Anita Mancini. This is like, I know how to make a heart now. I used to do like all upside down, but now I think this is the way. So shout out to Anita Mancini. Shout out to you, Leanna. Shout out to all these community activators, community organizations. You said you're partnering up with 70 different organizations. We don't have time for me to ask you all of them, but shout out to New York City Health and Human Services, right?
Health and Hospitals, yeah.
Health and Hospitals, excuse me. We got to get you connected to my gang over the Queens Chamber of Commerce, where I'm wired, and I know a lot of people, so we'll do that. The show is called Philanthropy and Focus. The organization is plant-powered Metro New York. Speaking of Metro, let's go Mets. This is your boy Tommy D. 200 episodes. We're just getting warmed up, baby. And I tell you this has been another In Focus production. Make it a great day. I'll see you guys next Friday. Bye.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.